A rookie wide receiver that nobody fully believed in is turning heads every single day at Hallis Hall. A left tackle who got benched and battled injuries last season is back and hungry, training with one of the best in the business. And a brand new safety from Seattle is walking into Chicago talking like a man on a mission. The Bears are wrapping up mandatory minicamp, and things are looking very, very interesting. If this kind of Bears coverage fires you up the way it fires us up, hit that like button, share this video with a fellow Bears fan, and subscribe so you never miss a single update as we count down to training camp. So let's get into it, starting with the question everybody is asking right now: is the Xavier Thomas hype actually real, or are we just getting carried away because it is June and there is nothing else to talk about? Here is the thing. It is not just the fans hyping this kid up. It is not just the beat reporters casually mentioning his name. It is Ben Johnson himself. The head coach of the Chicago Bears stood in front of the media and confirmed what we have been hearing throughout the entire off-season program. Xavier Thomas is making a play nearly every single day. Johnson described him as a guy with a long highlight reel of showcasing his speed in the SEC, someone who could genuinely be a big weapon for this offense in 2026. Those are not throwaway words from a head coach who chooses every syllable carefully. Think about what we have seen since OTAs began. The media only gets access 1 day per week during that phase, and both of those days the headline coming out of practice was Xavier Thomas. Long touchdown. Speed that jumps off the field. Then mandatory minicamp opens, and on day 1, Thomas takes a tunnel screen all the way to the house. The Bears' social media team posted it themselves. That is not a coincidence. That is an organization letting you know, pay attention to this kid. Now here is what makes this story genuinely fascinating, and I want you to really think about this. Xavier Thomas, the third-round pick out of LSU, the 89th overall selection in the 2026 NFL Draft. This young man never had a single stable year in college football. Not one. He shows up at Mississippi State as a true freshman, and his head coach Mike Leach tragically passes away. They bring in an interim. The next year the team is struggling, they fire the coaching staff mid-season, and now he has a second interim head coach in 2 years. He transfers to LSU trying to get a fresh start. His first year there he is behind a loaded receiver room and barely gets a chance. His second year, the starting quarterback gets hurt, the offensive line cannot protect, the entire offensive rhythm falls apart, and then Brian Kelly is out the door too. 4 years of college football. 4 years of chaos, instability, interim coaches, injuries around him, and system changes. He never got to play in one consistent, well-functioning offense from start to finish. And yet the flashes were always there. The speed was always undeniable. He ran a 4.2840 at the combine. You cannot teach that. You simply cannot. Here is your question of the day, and I genuinely want to know what you think. Drop it in the comments below. Do you believe Xavier Thomas can be a legitimate factor for the Bears offense starting in week 1 of the 2026 season? Or do you think he needs a full year to develop before we see his real impact? The receiving ability is clearly there. He has good hands for a guy who plays almost entirely off his speed, which is rarer than people realize. He has serious return ability on special teams too, 95 combined punt and kickoff returns in college. Khalif Raymond is the trusted veteran in that return role right now, but Thomas is going to get opportunities back there. The coaches also have legitimate options to use him in creative ways: gadget plays, jet sweeps, motion packages. Ben Johnson's offense is built for exactly this kind of versatile weapon. But here is the real test that is coming. Minicamp is t-shirts and shorts. Training camp is full pads, full contact, and Ben Johnson pushing these guys to their absolute limit. We saw it last year. They go live. They hit. It is the real deal. Speed merchants sometimes hit a wall when they start getting knocked around and have to process at NFL speed with the defender in their face. That is the next step for Xavier Thomas, and how he handles training camp will largely determine how large his role is when the season kicks off. Since being drafted, this kid has exceeded expectations. That much is clear. Now it is time to see if he can hold that standard when the game gets physical. Moving on, Braxton Jones is back, and he sounds like a completely different person mentally. The left tackle who got benched in Week 4 last season and battled through nagging injury problems all year is healthy again, back up to around 300 pounds, and he has been working with former All-Pro offensive tackle Terran Armstead this offseason. Think about what that means. Armstead played under a demanding offensive system in New Orleans and is known as one of the most technically refined pass protectors in the game. That is the training partner Braxton Jones chose this offseason. That tells you everything about his mindset. Jones himself was refreshingly honest about last season. He said the injury was mentally draining, that getting benched hit him hard, but that he is grateful for it because it forced him to take a real look in the mirror. He called it getting punched in the face a little bit. There is accountability in those words. There is no excuse making. Just a guy who went through something difficult and came out the other side with more clarity and more hunger. People forget that Braxton Jones was actually quite good before last season derailed everything. He graded out well for multiple years, started over 40 games, and was a consistent above-average performer at left tackle when healthy. Was he ever going to be a Pro Bowl player? Probably not. But a healthy, locked-in Braxton Jones who moves well and holds his own in pass protection is absolutely good enough on an offensive line that already has 2 elite guards and Darnell Wright as a true stud at right tackle. If he can just return to that pre-injury version of himself, this line has real potential to be dominant. Now let's talk about the defensive side of the ball because Montez Sweat stepped to the podium and immediately got real about what is coming in about 6 weeks. When asked about training camp, Sweat basically said he is expecting the worst, and that was said with a laugh, but also with complete seriousness. He went through it last year. He knows what Ben Johnson's training camps look like. He said he plans to be better prepared this time around. Then he added something that should resonate with every Bears fan. He said that under Ben Johnson last year, everything was about winning in 2025. If it was not directly connected to winning, it simply did not exist in that building. That is a culture statement. That is what a locker room sounds like when it actually believes in what the head coach is building. And they have earned that belief. 11 wins in the regular season. An NFC North title. A playoff victory. Year 1 under Ben Johnson delivered. Now the buy-in going into year 2 sounds as strong as ever, and that matters enormously heading into a training camp where the standard is only going to rise. And then there is Kobe Bryant. The veteran safety who comes in from Seattle fresh off a Super Bowl championship, and he is not here to coast. He is not here to cash a check and collect a ring bonus. Every single thing this man has said since arriving in Chicago suggests someone who is genuinely fired up about this opportunity. When asked about Ben Johnson's intensity and competitive energy, Bryant said he loves it. He said Johnson is filled with fire. He said they have a lot in common, that they talk trash to each other, that he matches his energy every single day. That is a veteran leader setting the tone for how this roster approaches this season. Ben Johnson has raved about Kobe Bryant since the moment he walked through the door, not just as a football player, but as a culture carrier. A guy who comes from winning, who knows what it takes, who brings that standard with him to a new city. The Bears said goodbye to a great player in Kevin Byard to make room for a younger, ascending defender who can be part of this core for years to come. If that investment pays off the way it looks like it might, it is going to pay off in a massive way. So as mandatory minicamp wraps up and these guys head into their summer break before the intensity of training camp kicks in, here is the final thought I will leave you with. This roster has real reasons for genuine excitement. A rocket-fast rookie receiver who the head coach himself is talking up. A left tackle who looks and sounds like a man reborn. A defensive end who has fully bought into a culture that delivered 11 wins in year 1. And a new safety voice in that locker room who has been to the top of the mountain and is hungry to get back. Which Bears newcomer has you most excited heading into 2026? Drop your answer in the comments. I genuinely want to read every single one. Bear down.